good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're joining us from today. My name is Christina Lowry, and I have the great honor of leading Girl Rising. And I'm joined today by my wonderful colleagues. I've got Judith Regis, our Vice President of Programs. We've got Kathleen Bartlett, Director of our Girl Rising Global Education Fund, and Debbie Odenyi, Girl Rising's Country Manager in Kenya, and a very special guest today. We have Carol Owala, founder of the organization Big Picture Learning, an amazing partner and grantee of ours that's part of the Girl Rising Global Education Fund. So we're thrilled to be here with you today. Before we get to the real treat today, which is getting to hear from Debbie and Carol, I want to start by actually reading a poem or an excerpt from a poem. This poem was submitted to us this summer as part of a global citizen storytelling challenge that we did. And this was written by Ehi Koochio Ogwiji from Nigeria. Why is girlhood designed like an internship program for marriage? Why is the news of the arrival of a man's fourth girl child passed quietly like an internal memo, written on the midwife's lips and signed by his wife's sigh? And I share this because I think it gets to the heart of why we do what we do at Girl Rising. Girl Rising's mission is to change the way the world values girls and their education, to change these internal memos, as Ehi so beautifully wrote in her poem. So how do we do that? We do three main things at Girl Rising. We create, we collaborate, and we activate. First, we create original content in the form of films, books, television, radio program, and they tell the stories of girls themselves, stories of the power and potential of girls and the tremendous courage they show as they achieve their education and confront the challenges in their lives. And then we collaborate. While we collaborate with all kinds of different organizations, today we're talking about our collaborations with our nonprofit partners, educators, and local leaders across the globe. And we turn those stories into educational tools and resources. And we adapt them even further as we collaborate in all of the countries where we're working, adapting them to the local needs and helping our local partners change the way communities value girls and their education and the way girls value themselves. And then thirdly, we activate. We use these stories to inspire people everywhere to be advocates for girls and to stand up for gender equality. Our partner organizations, we're working with over 120 partners across 11 countries, vary in size and model. But what they have in common is their focus on engaging girls and boys both joyfully in learning, helping to build confidence, skills, and the mindsets that will help them learn, help them stay in school, successfully complete their education, and achieve better life outcomes. This is the third of 3 virtual events that we've held over the last month, focusing on one program at Girl Rising, a unique model, we think, for working with local education leaders in India and Kenya. And it's called the Girl Rising Global Education Fund. Some of you are already investors in this fund and some are new. So I'll take just a minute to explain the model. The Girl Rising Global Education Fund is a 4-year venture philanthropy fund. It's a new model in the world of nonprofit work and philanthropy to achieve social impact. And ours is a 3-step program. First, we source and select local leaders who are working in education in these 2 countries. Second, we invest in them and their organizations, helping to develop their models, providing resources, both financial and our educational tools, and mentoring. And third, we work with them to advance their work upon exit from this fund. And along the way, we track milestones that we've developed hand in hand with each leader. And broadly, The expected outcomes of this work is that at the end of the 4 years, the local leaders and their organizations will be in a better and more solid position to sustain and grow their education and gender norm change work in their communities. And I'll also say that these are true partnerships. There's incredible benefit to Grow Rising as we work so closely with these amazing, innovative leaders and organizations. We learn how to adapt our materials. We learn from them how we need to innovate based on inevitable changing local circumstances. And we are deeply inspired by them every day. So under this current fund, we have 4 grantee partners, 2 in India, 2 in Kenya. And we have a handful of others that don't receive funding that are that have our resources available to them, our learning resources. But the 4 grantee partners are the ones that receive funding over the course of the 4 years. So this morning, tonight, for my Kenya colleagues, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Carol Owala, the founder of one of our partners, Big Picture Learning, and Debbie Odenye, our Kenya program leader. First, before we get to their conversation, I'm going to share with you a brief video that tells us a little bit about Big Picture Learning's work and introduces us to one of their amazing participants.
Our real mission is activating potential of young people who live in marginalized communities. So we do this through the partnership that we do with community schools that serves the neediest students in Kenya. We have public schools that are very overcrowded, but we also have community schools. If it weren't for community school, I, for example, would not have gone to school. So because public schools are overcrowded, people in the community begin schools to meet the need and the demand for children who are not going to school. So those are kind of the schools that we partner with. I would like to talk a bit about our students. Those are the students that you're going to meet today. If you're a student in Kenya who attends community schools, chances are you've already not done very well in your exams. There are also, just a lot of challenges that you go through. One of the challenges is school fee. So on average, the students that you're about to meet are out of school twice every week because, schools in Kenya are not free. So when we begin working with our schools, one of the things that we've noted is also just the low self-esteem that students have about themselves. So our students, when we meet them, first of all, they've had these constant messages about the fact that they cannot achieve, the fact that they cannot do anything past, the academic work. We also meet students who feel like they are failures. So our work really begins there. Our work begins by, when we partner with schools, we work with the teachers. Because when you want to work with students to change things, you have to think about the teachers and the adults that work with them. So we work with the teachers to change their mind shift around what is possible for the students that they support. We also do a lot of training and workshop to help see the teachers and the students see their potential. So self-efficacy is very important. So there's a lot of work that happens when you come to these communities. One of the things that you might see is the need. But today we are not going to talk about the need. Really, we are going to talk about the resilience of these students and what happens when we develop deep relationship with our students, when we support our students through, to pursue their passion and interest, and when we have supportive adults that are there to support students to pursue those passions and interests that they have.
my biggest dream is when I finish Form 4, that is grade 12, I want to go and study law. I love singing, music, it just makes me go up. Yeah, I love singing a lot. I'm under Big Picture Learning Kenya, and through them we were actually taught about project work, which also made me to be to do something during this COVID-19 period. So I'm doing a project which is related to COVID-19. So my project is all about the elderly and COVID-19. So I have 3 goals for my project. First goal that I had, it's to learn some of the challenges that they are facing during this COVID-19 period, and that I had to go out there, do a research, conduct interviews. The second goal that I had, it was sort of sensitizing or creating awareness to the elderly and also those people who live around them in my community, so that at least they can know some of the challenges that they are actually facing. The third goal that I had was to actually give out basic supplies that they need. After that, I'm willing to go out there and see their progress, what has happened after my project, anything new that they've learned, and maybe how it has impacted their lives.
I'm a student at Big Picture Learning Kenya, and during this COVID-19, before it started, I decided to do a project under childhood obesity that is related to the problem that is affecting our community, that is Kangemi community. So I decided to do this project so that the parents can be aware of this problem of childhood obesity.
My project is based on mental health awareness amongst the youths. What I'm trying to do is sensitize this information to a lot of people. Why I chose this project is I have had my own battles and still do with mental illnesses, so I have that sort of point of view of how some or most of my fellow youths go through every day. My goals with my project is to just get the information out there, to get more youths talking about it, to also encourage them to step up and talk about whatever they are going through, because a lot of people feel that they are sort of pressured not to talk about what they're feeling, either because they're afraid of what their relatives might talk about, stigma in the community as well. And not a lot of people are willing to talk about mental health.
So what inspired me to do this project is that I actually live with an elderly person. That's my dad. I'm in Kangemi, and he has high blood pressure and also lung diseases. So when you kind of try to relate to those two, having those diseases and then COVID-19, it's it becomes more chaotic. So my support team, first of all, I thought of those people who really know me well. So I started from the place, I started from my own family. And then somewhere else where I went was the place that I studied, that is from Big Picture Learning Kenya. I have a project proposal which talks all about how I'm going to fulfill my project. I also have a project timeline which talks about that time frame in which I aim to finish my project, and maybe some of the things that I'll have to do. So when you're actually doing something concerning people, you need to sort of learn about their culture, learn about their beliefs. So that one I did it through conducting interviews. I also needed to go out of my comfort zone, from those people, specialists who know lives of the elderly people. That's organizations or maybe doctors who know some of the things that the elderly are passing through in relation to COVID-19. So for me, I'm actually conducting a project. Then if you go to another youth and then tell him you can make change, or maybe he's do you have the financial funds? And then you're you can just start from where you are. So it's something that people are not yet working on, or they're not even willing, because they believe you need to have that support, financial support, in order for you to do something. But I think that what they need to know is that you can just start from where you are. You don't have to be great to start. And then problem solving skills. Along the way, of course, I face so many challenges. It's not everyone that is willing to help you or just directly. So you'll also face challenges. But I think that those challenges actually, I learned so many things from them. I learned that you need to look at them like opportunities, because they're there to strengthen you. So you need to come out of your comfort zone in order for you to deal with those challenges. Actually, this project has been it has impacted me in many ways, self-belief. For now, I have high self-esteem. I believe I can solve another issue if it comes out. After getting those information, I'm actually writing a handbook which you'll get, and the name is actually The New Normal. I also have a video talking all about my project, and you can also get that if you have interest.
before I started, this project thing, I just kind of had this idea of knowing that, yeah, there's this problem out in the community affecting a lot of youths, but now I understand exactly what kind of help that they need and how I can help them in the way that is, I can help them in my own best possible way. And another thing is that I can be self-driven, because I took initiative to spread awareness on mental health. And yeah, and for the skills that I've learned, I am a critical thinker. Well, I would advise my youth, or even adults as well, if you have like a skill or a goal in life, and you you want to make a change or leave your mark in the world, I'd encourage you to take that chance. Go for it,
My advice to my fellow peers or to my fellow youth, I think that I will tell you that you can make change wherever you are, no matter the place that you come from. Even if it's a slum, your dreams are still valid. You can do anything for as long as you believe in yourself and you believe like you have the power, because I always believe that like the power is in you and you can be able to do it. So since you have the power, since you have the skills, go out there and show the world that you can do it and there is something more to you.
I have such high expectations for these students. I know that they have self-efficacy. We've worked so hard to develop their self-efficacy. And research shows that when you have self-efficacy, you have the recipe, the perfect recipe to succeed in life, but also career-wise. So I see them in college. I see them pursuing careers that brings them joy, I see them taking care of themselves mentally, but also physically. So I have such, big dreams. I think our students have what it takes to change the world.
Great, and Debbie and Carol, will kick it over to you now. I did forget to say one thing, which is while the chat is not enabled for us all to see each other's chats, we really encourage you, all of us at Grow Rising can see your chats, and we encourage you to ask any questions and we'll share them back. We've done this as a security measure because we were recently hacked. One of our Zoom webinars was recently hacked. Is that something that's happening all over, unfortunately? If there is something that happens on this one and we have to close down the call, we will immediately email you a link to a new Zoom call. But for now, please do use your chats. We can all see them and we'll share questions. There'll be an opportunity for questions. So Debbie and Carol, you can unmute yourselves and over to you.
Good evening. Good morning, everyone. Like mentioned by Christina, I'm Debbie Odenyi, Girl Rising Kenya Program Lead. The Girl Rising Program in Kenya aims to create a gender responsive and equitable educational environment by addressing the prevalent gender stereotypes and disparities by engaging with teachers or facilitators in programs, adolescent girls and boys, and to empower them to drive change in their schools and within their communities. Therefore, Girl Rising currently works with selected NGOs and key stakeholders working in educational and gender sectors. We currently work with 2 grantee partners, Sunflower Global and Big Picture Learning Kenya, and 3 implementing NGOs, Thorntree, Peacemaker International, and the Murua Girl Child in Narok. And also, the 3 implementing NGOs have access to the Girl Rising curriculum tools, and they are also trained in use of these tools. We also collaborate with Metis, who Girl Rising during the COVID-19 pandemic collaborated with to print a home learning guide. And today it is a great delight to be joined by the inspirational Carol, doing phenomenal work with the Big Picture Learning Kenya. Carol, I know that Big Picture Learning's approach is around developing leadership and life skills in secondary school students in the informal settlements of Kawangware and Kangemi in Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya. Just to start off, would you briefly tell us about yourself and share your understanding of this approach, a big picture learning Kenya.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for having me. Thank you again to the Girl Rising team. You've been more than, grantees. You worked with us all the way. So, this work is possible because of the support that we've received from you. So my name, you've heard, is Caroline Owala. And I'm an educator. I'm an educator by profession. So I've taught in the Kenyan system as a regular teacher. And then I've also taught students with special needs. I also have experience working with adult learners. So I've supported teachers and school leaders in their professional growth. And right now I'm leading Big Picture Learning Kenya, which is an organization that partners with community schools. So today, one of the things that I'm going to share about our work is, like I said in the video, we do a lot of workshops. And in those workshops, we have conversations with our school leaders about the goals that they have. I'm sure educators everywhere, if you ask them to give me what the goals they have for their students are, they'll give you such ambitious goals, because as teachers we have very big dreams for our students. So they talk about the fact that their children, they want their students to be critical thinkers, problem solvers. They want their students to have the courage to solve some of the problems that they have in the community. And then the next question now is the education system, or is what we are doing in our classes every single day, preparing our students for those ambitious goals that we have? And the question, the answer, like all of us know, it's just not just in Kenya, but this is a global thing. The answer, unfortunately, no. So there's a very big disconnect between the goals that we have for our students and how we are preparing them to achieve those goals. And so Big Picture Learning partners with communities that serve the neediest students in Kenya. And what they do is they begin by working with the school leaders, teachers and the school leaders in those schools. Because, teachers have a lot of influence. As teachers, we influence a lot. All of us can remember the role of teachers in our lives. If I told you today to think about that one teacher that thinks for you, all of us will share that. So teachers have a lot of influence. And so we take them through these conversations that I'm talking about to begin thinking a lot about how they prepare the students. What are the constant messages that these students that they teach, here? It goes back to what Christina was saying. If we have girls in our schools who have a goal to get married, they're not going to work very hard in class, right? So once that work has happened with the teachers, then work with the school leaders and teachers through coaching and professional development on site to support them to make sure that these goals are visible in classes every day. Other things that we do is we support the teachers to support the students around their interest and passion. So what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? And then how can we link you with a mentor in the community or in your neighborhood who is already a master at what you want to do? So if you want to be a lawyer like Berlin, how can we link you with a mentor who is a strong woman lawyer who can teach you the tricks of the game while you're still in high school? And then another thing that we also do is support our students to see themselves as change agents. That doesn't happen after school. It should begin in school. So our students begin to see themselves as change agents. We involve them in project work to serve their communities. They develop projects, they come up with project proposals, and then use their knowledge and the support that we provided to them to solve real world problems. And so when we go back to the goals of education that I mentioned that the teachers raise, you can actually begin to tick them. They become critical thinkers, they're problem solvers, and all these amazing things that we want to see. So that's the work of Big Picture Learning.
Thank you so much. And I would just like to take you back to when COVID struck in March early this year. And so schools in Kenya were shut, programs were severely affected, including yours. And I like the way Big Picture Learning adapted in order to keep the program running, despite the challenges that were orchestrated by the restrictions, the lockdowns, and of course, technology, because I remember you had opted to take your program virtual. And so I reckon it was really important that this was really important for your students and the ones you reach and the ones you work with, keeping in mind that both boys and girls were impacted by school disruptions. And so much was and is still at stake for them, their health, their safety, their dreams, and even their future, Carol. Yeah?
Absolutely. And this was not a one-man show. So we wouldn't have done this without the Girl Rising support. So the conversation we've had with you, Debbie, the conversation that we've had with Kathy, just to talk about our challenges, but also to talk about some of the ideas that we had around reaching our students. So we are really grateful for that support. So when schools were closed, first of all, school for us, I grew up in the communities that we serve. I grew up in Kibera, which is an informal settlement, the same as the community that our students come from. And for me, school was a safe haven. That is where you get your food. That is where you're safe. For most girls, there's a lot of abuse that is happening in the community. When they are in school, they are safe. So when schools were closed, there were other challenges that came. So many parents and families lost their jobs. Our schools do not have access to internet. Our teachers do not have access to internet. So when that happened, our kids became even more vulnerable, and we had to respond. So some of the things that we did were we got 20 student leaders, our student leaders, we call them our change agents. So we got them gadgets. Some of them had to borrow gadgets from their family members and their neighbors. And we took them through, it was like a 2.5 month training for them, to strengthen their leadership. Because we were like, if we want to reach so many students, schools were closed, so many of the teachers in the community schools lost their jobs. So we had to, we had students and we had to help them see their role, as leaders. And so these students went through sessions. We did sessions around emotional intelligence. We did sessions just to help students see that they are powerful and they can do something. They did some amazing projects like you've seen in the video. And so after the training that we did with our students, we came up with a curriculum, a life skills curriculum. And the students that we supported, and we also got some teachers, in the communities. We empowered them to roll out these life skills curriculum in community schools. We worked with our, community leaders and teachers to open the community schools to every child. What we realized during that time was child labor was happening. So we expected to get 600 students. We only got about 250, sometimes less. But these students, our change agents, were able to run the life skills curriculum. We were able to get those 200 students, 200 and above students out of trouble and engaging in life skills and learning. And so many families and our school leaders keep talking about this. The program has been so impactful. In fact, most of our schools are going to adapt the life skills, syllabus when schools open in January, because they've just seen, a shift in the way students are thinking, a shift in the way students are engaging, So it was very important for us to do that. Other things that we did were just food distribution. So we distributed food, menstrual cups, to the girls that needed them. And then we just had these constant messages to our students. You're a student, you will be coming back to school. This is not permanent, just to help students think about school and ensure that engagement was still happening. So yeah, thanks to the support of Amazing. Yeah.
You're welcome, Carol. And this takes me to the value of actually offering life skills education to students in Kenya. It's especially at this time when they need it most. Life skills is very essential, and you and I know that this is not being taught very well or consistently in schools in Kenya. I remember the government tried to offer the same at community level to keep the children out, that are out of school engaged, but in vain. They did not make it here. And so while attending one of your sessions at Divine Mercy, one of the schools that you work with, just after restrictions were lifted and people could meet face to face, I remember I was so impressed by the way your students who were in that session, after watching a girl rising story by Senna, I remember it was Senna, yeah. And the discussion was being conducted by the facilitator then. Many of them were able to link the issues that had been covered in that story to the individual projects they were undertaking at that time, which we have seen some on the video, telling stories of the problems in their communities and how they intend to solve them. I witnessed a lot of change. I witnessed hope. I saw critical thinking, problem-solving skills in play. I was so impressed, really, really impressed. Yeah.
Yes, Debbie, and you know that just shows you the power of storytelling and the power of the narratives that our students hear. So for us, the Girl Rising films have been very impactful. In fact, when you hear what Berlin and Vieti and the other students, amazing students in that video are doing, it's because of the inspiration that they got. So I remember one of the time, Berlin, after watching the story of Mariana, she came and said, I'm going to record myself. I want to introduce people to my community. I want to tell them the story of my community, and I want to tell them about myself as Berlin. So it just shows how vulnerable we are, but also just how impactful stories are. So those stories have been impactful, and they are also very relevant, in our context. They're very relevant. Most of our students, like the girls in the videos, are the first ones in their families to attend high school. Also the role of culture and how culture plays itself in the education of girls. And also just the fact that, these girls, they come from very challenging environments, but they're able to rise above that, to grow in their leadership, to influence change. And so as a result of that, we've seen our students tell their stories more. They are reaching out to their communities to try and see how they can change things or influence, be part of the the work, or influence, just change around them. So yeah, the Girl Rising films, we are very excited about the work that's going to happen. We just did a pilot this year, and we are very excited about rolling it out to more than 900 girls and boys next year, because we've seen how impactful it is to our students.
Debbie and Carol, I'm going to unfortunately interrupt. I could sit and listen to you all morning, but we are on a tight time schedule. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm so inspired by, as always, Carol, the work that you're doing. And two things really stand out to me from what you're talking about. One is the power of educating girls, right? We just saw in Barlin and in what you're talking about, that when you educate girls, they're leaders, they support their communities, and the ripple effect of change is powerful and fast. So thank you. And also the power of storytelling to help change the way we all think and what we think is possible. So thrilled to hear that Barlin not only was inspired by the Girl Rising stories, but that it inspired her to tell her story and the story of her community. What a wonderful, again, ripple effect of change. So I have just one quick question that has been put in the chat. I'll answer very quickly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Judy for just a moment. But somebody asked whether or not to be a donor to the Girl Rising Global Education Fund, you have to commit to 4 years, and if there's a particular amount. And I'll say that we do prefer multi-year commitments just because it helps us plan and it helps our grantees plan. But we have plenty of people that donate to this fund on a single time, and our donors range from $100 to, we have an anchor gift that helped us begin this fund at $50,000. So it really ranges. We are in the second year of this fund, and we have raised about $615,000 of $1 million goal. So we are really quite flexible, and also happy to answer any questions about how to be part of this community and be part of the donor community. As you can see, there is quite incredible work happening as a result of this support. So very quickly, before we wrap up, I wanted to invite Judith to just share a couple of brief updates on other Girl Rising initiatives that have happened this year outside of Global Education Fund.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Kara, Kathy. Thank you, all of you, for being here today. This year has been a defining year for all of us. Wherever we are, we've been hit and touched by the global pandemic. And at Girl Rising, our commitment to girls' education has meant that not only did we have to pivot to how we adapt and respond to the challenges with our partners, we had to reconsider different ways of responding. And part of that different way of responding has been considering where technology is not a possibility. In places like Guatemala, we had to adapt to old technology, essentially radio, where population in communities where we serve do not have access to the technology, and radio is an option. In Guatemala, we expanded our program, redesigned our content to serve population of girls who may not otherwise have an access to the kind of curriculum training that is necessary. One of the most exciting things we did this summer was our storytelling challenge. You've heard all of this conversation that our colleagues and friends in Kenya have talked about. And through our storytelling challenge that we partner with HP, we had over 1,500 stories from well over 90 countries. And the stories ranges from gender equality to girls' education. And what was fascinating for us to recognize was issues of menstruation, girls' dignity was so hard at the center of these stories. And so the challenge and opportunities remain one that we see that became very clear to people's own experiences of these challenges. And as the year was evolving and as we continue to grow the organization, we had to actually get really focused. And part of being real focused has been, we strengthened our M&E system with funding from Nielsen Foundation and work with the George Washington University. We've assessed and organized where we were having an impact, how we understood what we were doing, where did we need to learn and adjust. And I think too often learning in M&E is all about success, but when we know what's not working, we can adapt, it makes our work even more effective. And we got funding from the Echidna Foundation that is allowing us in the next 3 years to actually bring clear focus and precision to our work in this next coming year, as the impact of this year remains present and consistent in our lives. We'll be adapting further to make sure not only do we continue to do what Kara and Debbie has describing with the young women and girls we are serving, but how do we actually tap into a deeper understanding to contribute to the research and knowledge around what works and what is possible for girls and girls' education. Now, there's so much I can tell you about what we are doing, but I look forward to sharing more report to the community here, both the GR-GEF partners and our broader communities, what the next year is going to look like building from the learning of 2021. Christina, thank you.
Great, thanks, Judith. Before we close, I'd actually like to go back to you, Carol, and just ask if there's, I know you had an exercise related to leadership, and wanted to know if you wanted to share that and be able to leave the audience here with something to consider.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we've talked about is just the power of storytelling. One of the things that we strive to do with both girls and boys in our program is to help them see a different possibility for themselves, so what they can be. So when things get really tough, it's like, oh, we want you to imagine a different possibility for yourself. So I'm going to lead you through a visualization. It's called visualization and guided imagery. And in this activity, this is an activity that I'm welcoming all of you to participate in. I'm just going to lead, you just follow, as I say, as I give you instructions. So I want you guys to imagine that you're a student, and you're a student in one of the communities that we've shown you. So maybe you're a 16-year-old, you could be a 17-year-old. Feel free to close your eyes. You can, stare at one place. Take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out. So I want you to imagine yourself as a very influential leader, following a career that you're very passionate about. Are you a community organizer? Are you a social worker? Are you a teacher? Who are you? Who do you see? What do you see? What are you wearing? Where are you? Are you employed? Or are you an employer? What are you doing? What are people saying about this influential leader? Who are you working with? Are you partnering with any organization in this community? Who are you influencing? What impact has your work made? So I'm going to invite you again to breathe in and breathe out. And you can come back to, us. And so what follows after that is now we begin planning backwards. So if that is the leader that you have seen, then what goal do you want to create for yourself this term to be able to, become the leader that you've envisioned? Thank you.
Carol, thank you so, so much. I wanted to stay and imagine and visualize. So maybe that helped people here also think about their next step. Thank you. It's hard to top that for a close. So I just want to say in closing that one of the things I'm really struck by in all of Carol's descriptions and in what we've heard from our other grantee partners, we'll share with you after in a deck form. We'll email you a deck that shares some specific ways that our other GR-GEF grantee partners have adapted this year. And I think that you'll see that both from what Carol has shared and what you'll read, it really is proof of concept for this model. That local leaders know their community best. They have great ideas that come from the needs in their communities. They can adapt and respond quickly, and they'll be there for the long term, affecting individuals in that community who will also be there for the long term. So strengthening a whole fabric of change. And these incredible leaders like Carol and her organization need resources to be able to do this work and need support. So the Grow Rising Global Education Fund provides that. We are providing important funding and support to these organizations in their early stages of development so that they can grow and be stronger and be even more effective at the incredible work that they are doing. So thank you for joining us. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Let's see, I don't know if we can put a chat to you, but I'm happy to have people email me directly. I'm Christina@growrising.org. And happy to answer questions about the fund, as well as anything else about Grow Rising. As Judy said, we have lots of other things happening as well in our universe. One other thing that I just wanted to add, because it's a very exciting new initiative of ours, is a new film that we're developing on the link between girls' education and climate change. So that's something we've been doing pre-production and research on the last year plus, and really hope to move into production this year, telling incredible stories of young women from around the world who are really leading the charge in their community because of their education. Oh, I see we shared in the chat a brief little video about that project also. So again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I hope this was a bright spot for you. It certainly was a bright spot for me to get to hear Debbie and Carol speak. And I wish all of you the best and very safe holidays. So thank you for joining. Have a good day, everyone.